right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Pops Pod. It's your boy Pops Prince. Today I'm accompanied by an engineer, an artist. She does a lot. She's a curator. Yeah, let's give it up for Stephanie. Yeah, welcome to the pod. Could you give a little intro about what you do or who you are?
Yeah, of course. So, Pablo, thank you so much for having me. I've been following you for such a long time, and it's such an honor to, have this conversation with you. So, yeah, my name is Stephanie or Soli. I'm an artist, an engineer, a curator. I'm the founder of Amoxley Book Club and Rilosa Art Collective. And really, I guess, describing me, I just like to foster community and engage in, dialogue and
Yeah.
connections.
It's crazy because you brought up when I started talking about this, you brought up Pretty Brown Heartthrob. So you've known me that long since?
Yeah.
Was that 2021?
I think it was a little bit before that. I think I actually found your account on Twitter, and I remember. Don't take this the wrong way, but I remember. I had to give a disclaimer, but no, yeah, I remember you being kind of weird, but in a way that was original,
Yeah.
And so that spoke to me because I grew up in Berwyn, and everybody in Berwyn, we're Latinos, but I felt because I was weird myself. So I don't know if I maybe saw that reflected in you or in that artistic endeavor. But I didn't see too many of artists being themselves unapologetically, and I saw that in you. And so I guess that authenticity was yo, this dude's super sick. And yeah, just seeing you from back then and Pretty Brown Heartthrob, Filthy Rich, all of you guys, it was very inspiring.
Yeah. So how long have you been making art for?
Ever since I can remember, since I was a young girl.
Yeah.
Again, I was always strange and weird. Now I realize I was just an artist, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I always like to draw. I always like to kind of escape reality in a sense. And so yeah, making art was always such a key foundation in who I was and who I am now.
I think I like following people in the area, and then it's cooler when I get to meet them in person and they're genuine. And then you went to Morden, so you knew both my baby mamas.
Oh, okay. Messy. Yes, I did.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Aurora was a sweetheart. I was actually a transfer, and I remember she was one of my first friends. She was so open and genuine how you're speaking, and when I saw you guys get together, I got so happy because I love when two genuine people connect. That is my shit. I am genuinely so happy. And your baby, I always ask you about him, and so cute.
Crazy.
Yeah.
A list of questions.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Did people ask questions on the poll?
Yeah. No Bad Fruit actually.
Oh, I love.
She was
Melissa.
really excited. She said, "What's one thing you see lacking in the creative scene, and that you can bring?"
Lacking. Well, I think it's that intention, right? I think that sometimes as artists and creatives, we put on events without kind of really, really paying attention to who we want to attract, right? We just want to do it maybe to get the event out or to maybe grow our brand. But I think that true intention in regards to what is the message you're trying to convey, right? Not just your event and having a lot of people come, but the message behind that, the inspiration behind that. The demographic, the audiences that you want to call in. And also, I would say that connection, right? Sometimes we go to events and you don't talk to anyone, and it's maybe because the event is, a little cold or people are not used to talking to each other. But I think, through fostering that intention, you get people to connect and really align with yourself, your event, and whatever you're trying to convey.
Most people just become artists and they don't have the intention of throwing events, but what was it that made you want to start throwing your own events?
I love this question. So I think it was always in me, Pablo. I think that from a very young age, my mom, I'm a proud daughter of immigrants. My mom danced danza azteca. She was always super Mexicana. My dad is a punk from Mexico, and he was heavily involved in the Little Village and Pilsen punk scene. And so at a very young age, I saw community work. I saw community come together. And I think that was truly what kind of planted the seed. And so, yeah, you're right. A lot of artists just want to be part of it or kind of stay low key. But because of that background and training, I think when it was time to, I went to college, and in college I worked for this cultural center. In that cultural center, I think again, like the seed was planted with community and organizing with my parents, but that's where I got my first platform, right? So I worked for Casa Latina. Shout out to Chico and Izzy Ace. That's where I met
Oh
them.
yeah, we
Yes.
talked about that. I'm sorry.
My day ones for real.
Come on the pod. Well, Izzy already came on, but I want to
Yeah.
get a
This is
Chico
actually
one.
his shirt.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
just dropped this, right?
He
That's
did.
fire.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, through Casa, you know, the director was very open and she let me basically curate events. And I did not know how to do that, right? I was like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old party girl. But her support and her vision and her just like pushing me, she's like, you know, you have this time slot, fill it up with what you want. You have these resources. And yeah, I was really sick to, you know, have the support not only of like the director, but of the university. And so that starts in college, and then I graduate, you know, I come back and I'm like, what is this real world life? I did not like it. And you know, I'm an engineer, so I got my first big girl job, and I just remember feeling like my life was lacking something.
Yeah.
And it was that connection because I no longer had it, right? I was just working, partying still, working, partying, but no like, you know, deep connection to my community. It's almost like I disconnected, right? And so I throw an art event in Pilsen, and I remember it was to commemorate women, specifically this one woman that had passed away. Well, she got murdered, and I remember that like really shook me to my core. And along with like art, I do believe that art should have intention, right? It should have a message, and I wanted to kind of pay homage to like how Latina women suffer a lot. And I gathered, I think, 12 artists, and we threw it in honor of, you know, her passing, and also to highlight the excellence of women in Latinidad. And through that, it just sparked the fire, right? It just
That was the first one. And
yeah.
under Ruidosa, or
No.
Ruidosa wasn't born yet?
No, Ruidosa was, I
Like
think,
years
still, yeah, like 3 years out. No,
So
that was
under your
yeah.
brand, which is Donat.
Yeah, Tonantzin.
Tonantzin.
I'm la he descuidado un poquito, but yeah, Tonantzin. You know how it goes sometimes, like
Yeah,
so many
definitely.
accounts. But yeah, no, Tonantzin was my first brand. I actually used to screen print and, you know, do prints, draw, paint, all of that. And so yeah, I did it under Tonantzin and with my sister. I have a sister. She's not my twin, but a lot of people think
okay. So because
yeah.
Aurora like brought that up, she was like,
yeah.
I think that's her sister's account, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure Stephanie makes stuff for it. So you guys share it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then she also makes art, and she helps you run Ruidosa as
Yeah.
well. Okay.
She's one of the founders of Ruidosa. She's my right hand. She's my confidant. She's like literally my rock. I think like, especially like, you know how important it is. Like everybody always looks at, you know, the curator, like, oh, like, you know, they're cool. But like, I almost feel like nobody checks on the curator or on like the artist, but you know, we have that person that we vent to, that holds our head up high, that supports us unconditionally. And I'm so grateful that
it's just you two, or do you guys have any more siblings?
I have a brother, and I just made that noise because all my girlfriends are like, "Let me see him," and I'm like,
"Is he younger or older?"
Yeah, he's older than us. He's my half brother. He was born in Mexico, so that's why there's a bit of disconnect. But you know, nonetheless, I love him. He's a great guy.
Is he still over there, or he lives here?
He lives here. He's just like separate from us, you know. But he's like I said, he's a great guy. He's figuring it out.
Nice.
He saw a lot of violence growing up, so I think that kind of messed with his foundation. But now I'm so proud of him because you know he has gotten his life back together.
Sick. Yeah. So with Ruidosa, when did that start, or like why? If you were already doing events under it, then
Tonantzin.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So Ruidosa started because actually Ruidosa started through the book club. So I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah, I just followed it. I was like, you don't like I know you do a lot, and then I started when I was like researching for like this, and I see how much you really do. I'm like, damn. So you have a book club as well.
Yes.
And that's like every week?
Yeah, every Monday, 7 p.m. Shout out to Moxley. Shout out my committee.
How long have you been doing that?
2 years. We just celebrated this Monday.
Weekly? So, every year?
Yeah.
Every week?
Every Monday.
For 2 years? That's fire.
Yeah. It's truly changed my life. I think I always like pinpoint that to the exact moment that everything actually changed. Because when I was independent, you know, it's cool, but like, I don't know. I really love working in community. And so that was the community, right? So the book club was founded off of my sobriety journey. I got sober. Like I said, I was a party girl.
sorority.
A
Yeah.
sorority girl too, but Latina. Shout out to my gammas as well. A lot of shout outs. See, it took a village to raise me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and it wasn't like, I just like to party. I'm not blaming it on them or anyone. Like I was just down. And so again, I start to sober up. I start to realize I don't want that. I start to realize that there's nothing wrong with people that drink or whatever, but just for me, it wasn't serving me. And I
Yeah.
had to have a really, really honest conversation with myself as to what I wanted to do, what I wanted to accomplish, and how alcohol or any other vices got in the way of that. And so I decided to stop drinking just to see, right? Because I had tried like a couple times to not drink, but I was just like, you know what? Like, let me just see. Like, and so it stuck this time. And as I progressed in that sobriety journey, I noticed that I have a lot of time on my hands. Like, and even though I was painting and drawing and writing, because I like to write too, it was still not enough time to fill all of those gaps. And so I've always been kind of nerdy as well. Well, I'm an engineer, but and so I decided to go back to my roots, which is reading. I love to read. I've always had that like passion for learning and growing. And so the book was Borderlands, Gloria and Saldua, Chicanismo book, amazing book. I recommend it. It is criticized, but again, use your critical thinking skills. But yeah, so I had read that book right when I graduated. 3 years passed, and I'm on the sober journey. I decided to read it again. And I post on Instagram super lightly, like, hey, who would like to, read this book with me? And I truly thought it would be like 1 or 2 girls, like, because it's always girls in book clubs for some reason. But it was like 10 to 15 people.
Nice.
And I was like, where am I going to host them?
Mm.
Because I thought we were going to go to a cafe or maybe in la sala de mi casa. But yeah, so and coincidentally again, in like the universe, a week after that, I had met Teresa from Pilsen Arts and Community House.
Yeah.
And
I actually did
you know them?
they were hosting a pig show.
Yes.
And I got to do a pig.
I saw, yes.
I met her once though. She's really nice.
She's amazing. Literally another mentor of my life, like completely changed my life meeting her and connecting with her.
That's fine.
Yeah, and so she just, I think she lightly offered the space. I didn't know again about book club, and I was really scared to ask her. I remember just being like terrified, and because I was like, no, what if she rejects it? What if she says no? Like she just said that to be nice. But I think like the desire in me to like want to just not be alone so much, overrode that. And so I asked her, and I'm like, hey, I have about 10 to 15 people. We want to read a book. Would it be okay if we use your space? And she absolutely was on board. And yeah, to have that kindness, like it was so transformative, right? And then we get there, and I thought she was going to stay with us and kind of like watch over us. No, she was so like, it was so independent. It was so like loving. And yeah, from there,
you were there for 2 years.
Yeah, for 2 years.
That's awesome. How does a book club work? Like, you guys read out loud? Or?
We did. It was a lot of trial and error because I didn't know. Like, again, I just kind of wanted to connect and read the book. I didn't even look at modules of like how do book clubs work, nothing. So at first we would read in person, but then the members told me like, hey, we don't really like that. It takes a lot of time. Then we can't really digest what's going on. So then I started assigning chapters. And they started calling me profe or profesora, and I'm like, please don't do that. It gets to my head. No. But yeah, so that's the module that we follow now. We assign chapters, and then the only rule with book club is that, specifically to the one that we made, is that it has to be a Latino author. I think that we don't highlight enough of our Latinidad through academic exposure, and I think that that's what the book club does, right?
Damn, that's crazy. Do you know who John Gaziano is? He's a Colombian-born actor, but he was raised in New York. You've definitely seen his movies. Let me just pull him up.
Pull him up.
Leguizamo. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. This guy?
Oh my God, yes. So he's Colombian?
He was born in Bogota, but I don't know if he was adopted, but his family moved him out to New York. So he's basically from New York, but sometimes he talks about Colombia, and I get excited because
no, and it's so real.
So he talks a lot about how they pretty much like exterminated like Latino culture from like history.
They did.
Because I don't know why they did it, but because it's mostly like
Yeah.
what we were taught in school is like black and white. And, like,
Yes. And I actually have like that's another huge theme that comes out in book club because like none of them somos mexicanos, somos like salvadoreños,
yeah.
guatemaltecos, like it's all types of Latinos in
Oh,
book club,
fine.
and even people that are not Latino, that
Yeah.
are allies, that are compassionate, that are open. And we talk about that, right? We talk about how infuriating it is to like not learn our history until being 20 years old,
Mhm.
until being 25, until places like book club teach you as adults, like, hey, guess what? Like your people have been here. They contributed to the US directly. You know, you don't live in the shadows. You have been here and you deserve to be seen and recognized. And I always appreciate that. I always appreciate those conversations because they empower us to
Yeah.
really live our truth.
Definitely. Even just like me being amongst like, because I grew up in Melrose Park and that was like a
Yeah.
lot of Mexican, like community, and just like, but I didn't feel like I could relate to them because like
Yes.
I grew up in Bogota and then I came here when I was 5.
You grew up in Bogota?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what
Yeah.
you consider your formative years, but I
Yeah.
until I was 5, and then so like
Whoa.
I really couldn't relate to like Mexican culture, but I loved it. I just like,
Yes.
especially the food. Like
Oh my
your
God, so
food is
good.
amazing. I feel like Mexicans have the best like food hands down.
I agree. I might be biased, but I agree.
But yeah, I think that's really cool, especially like bringing other like being here in Humboldt Park. Obviously, there's a lot
Yes.
of Puerto Ricans, but
Mhm.
I feel like since I've started promoting that I have Colombian roots, and like
Yes.
through my clothes, a lot of Colombians just come out and like, yeah, like
Really?
they've been like DMing me, or they'll just like say they want to come through. Some people have shopped with me already, so it's really cool.
That's super sick. It's always going to be your community that supports you,
Hmm.
and it is always really nice to have like your heritage like back you up. So, and I love Colombians. I know how that sounds, but I'm gonna say it. Like I have always have like a deep connection to Colombians. I
Hmm.
love like your culture, your openness, the sweetness. Every Colombian that I have met
I think
has been so sweet.
you told me that you
I
like the
am.
way they talk.
I do. I love the way they talk. I
The
also like
accent.
your food.
Yeah, the food is
So
fine. Have you
yeah.
been to Mercatos?
No, is that a
I
restaurant here?
always tell people, yeah, it's like a bakery up north.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, we should do like I want
A
to start taking people,
collaboration.
or just taking people out like
Yeah,
to eat like
that'd be
Colombian food.
sick.
But wait, if we could like go back
To
to,
Ridosa, right?
no,
Oh.
to your engineering
Oh,
like
sure.
degree, like that. So my parents like are
Mhm.
both engineers. They're civil engineers in
Whoa.
Colombia, and they my dad had to do it all over again over here in
Yes.
the States because they don't like think it's real when they come.
I hate
I don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
But they always like pushed either engineering or like some type of profession.
Yeah.
Your parents, is it the same way, or you kind of did it on your own because your dad being a punk? And I
Yeah.
don't know if that's bogus. Is
No,
that
it's
that's
not bogus. It's totally fair. I think actually I love that question because I don't know. I feel like a lot of people because I was, quiet and strange. I feel like I almost did engineering. My parents were like super open. They're like,
Mm,
do whatever you want, sweetie. Like it's fine. So originally I wanted to be an artist. Like I wanted to go to art school. Like I knew what I wanted. I had been drawing since I was like a toddler. But I remember having a conversation with my mom and telling her like, hey, I'm ready. I'm about 17. Like I want to go to art school. I'm going to start applying. And she's like, the look that she gave me of disappointment,
really?
I'll never forget. And it was like, because my mom was an open hippie person, but this was just contrasting that, right?
Yeah,
And so she's like, oh, are you sure? Like, what if you're starving? What if you don't make money? Like, what if you,
like planning doubt.
yeah, all this doubt. And it was so, and my mom's a great mom, but I think it was just, again, she's an immigrant. She wants the best for me. She wants to make sure that I at least could survive and pay my bills and stuff. And I think in Mexico, if you're an artist, you are struggling, right? Not all of the time, but from what we've seen, even from when I've gone, like it's hard. They're on the street, they're vending,
Right.
they're literally every day like hustling to, eat. And so I think she had that background. And yeah, she just said, make sure you find a career that feeds you and that, where you can live well. And so that completely broke my plan because,
Mm-hmm.
again, I also wanted to make my mom proud. Like I said, I'm a proud daughter of immigrants, and that whole experience, growing up in between two worlds, seeing my mom, give so much to this country, but have this country be so off-putting and so rude and racist,
Mm-hmm.
was very well. It hurt me. It hurt me, and it made me feel like what I chose academically had to be worth the struggle that my mom went through and my dad. And so I get to call, yeah. So I get to. I think we were around don't know, maybe my junior year. And I took just for BS this class, like not software engineering, AutoCAD class. So we were just like drafting.
Mm-hmm.
And the professor or the teacher there had like this, his name was Mark Stock. Also shout out to Mark Stock.
Shout out, Mark.
Shout out Mark. He paid attention to me, not in like a weird way, but like I think he saw something that I didn't see either, because I was really good. I was really good at drafting, which was weird because I had just drawn and this was on the computer. It reminds me now of like Photoshop or like,
That's crazy. Like,
yes.
Well,
Mhm.
I'm a drafter.
Yeah,
Like I do that
okay.
as my day job. Like
Wow.
I'm a drafter for Zyke and Signage. It's a
I
signage
love
company.
that.
So like you talking about AutoCAD is just
Yeah,
sorry.
it's and I know all of us have that trigger.
Yeah.
Like it's like AutoCAD is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool.
But I use Illustrator now.
Oh yeah,
Or,
I
like,
have heard that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think my college and my professors just wanted me to. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, why did you teach me the hardest one? And they're like, so you could do whichever one.
That's true.
But yeah, so I took that class. He was very interested in my abilities. He would have me helping other kids because I would finish. And then at the end of that school year, he's like, what are you going to do for college? And I'm like, I don't know. I wanted to go to art school, but I don't think that's going to happen. And he pulls out this list of engineering schools. And again, I will never forget. That's another one of my formative moments. And I'm like, what is this? And he's like, I think you should pursue engineering. I think it encapsulates your creativity, your artistic side. And also, he's like, look at the salaries, it pays well, and I believe that you can do it. And I just grabbed the paper and I was like, okay. And I kind of threw it in my backpack and I didn't really think about it because I was still kind of disappointed about art school. And so I go to college, I accept whatever. Like, I don't... Like I went to Western Illinois. I didn't really pay attention to like what school or prestige because I didn't know that stuff mattered. I just wanted to go to college, right? And I wanted to leave home, and it was 4 hours away, and it was enough, space for me.
Is that where you met Izzy and Chico? Okay.
Yeah, they're a year younger than me, but also just meeting them was so sick because again, like with that word of alignment and that concept, we were just automatically like, that was my tribe. Like we just knew that we had the same outlooks, the same mentalities, the same Mexicanidad because we connected so much through that. And Izzy and Noe were also in fraternities that were Latino, and they were always putting on art stuff. And so it wasn't a lot of us doing that. And so that's why we automatically connected.
That's interesting. Because like when I think fraternity and like, it's
right.
like a frat, like
partying.
Like Blue Mountain State. I don't know if you ever saw that show. Just like, is that how it is? Or...
I would say for the mainstream ones, yeah. And again, please don't come at me. This is just my experience. But yeah, so the mainstream, and I always get kind of like side eyes or like questioned. Like I could not connect with the mainstream fraternities because I'm gonna say it, they were all white. And I was very Mexicana. And so I was like, what is this? And even the music and everything. So then I found like these fraternities and sororities that were Mexican or Latinos. And that broke my brain too. I was like, what? Like, what is this? Again, like this is possible in like Mexican or Latino. And they have like these things called informational. So like they bring you in. And I just remember seeing the baddest bitches I ever saw that were educated, Pablo. Like these girls were baddies. And I wanted that. I wanted that so bad. Like, a lot of people are like, you paid for friends. I was already popular, not to sound like that, but I was very, I think I can talk to people.
I think one thing that turns me off about sororities is like the hazing, but I don't know if that's like that everywhere. Well, is it like degrading when you...
No, I think like, again, that's why I chose the Latina sorority because everything just kind of matched, right? So like I had heard about the hazing in mainstream and like I didn't experience that. I just experienced, yes, there is a pledge process, but it's not anything that doesn't teach you virtues, right? That doesn't teach you loyalty. That doesn't teach you like, like how to be part of something. And I respected it. I respected the process. I, went through it. And yeah, I mean, going and seeing that. And so that's, okay, back to the creativity side. So a lot of people think that fraternities just party or like the social thing, but the Latino fraternities, because we're a minority and we're marginalized, they have this emphasis and focus on making sure that our grades are really good, that we program events for the university. I didn't know that coming into that. I thought that they were just gonna party.
Right.
But no, like you literally have to do events that are cultural, academic, educational, so that your sorority doesn't shut down. And so that's my second tier of like programming and organizing. And I was undecided for my first semester because again, I was still so like confused about what to do. But I took one intro to engineering class just because I was like, okay, whatever. It's like an elective. It's going to be fine. And in that intro to engineering class, I meet another icon, Rafael. And he was this Mexican guy. And again, Western was predominantly white. And I was the only woman in a lot of my classes in general. But in my engineering class, I was the only Latina and I was the only woman. And so I remember feeling so like a spotlight, like constantly being watched. And even though I excelled academically, because I am a nerd, I couldn't like deal with the social aspect of it because I hadn't spoke Spanish in 3 weeks. Like I hadn't ate Mexican food. Like it was just so, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And in walks this guy, right? And well, he's not a guy. Yes, un señor. He walks in. He has Mexican boots, like with the crocodile ones, and a matching belt. And I'm like, my jaw just drops because I'm like, this dude, he's Mexican.
Yeah.
Teaching a full class of white people, right? White guys, because there wasn't any women in there. And I just couldn't. I remember the first class that he introduced himself and he welcomed us. After class, I almost ran to him and I'm like, "Are you Mexican?" He's like, he cracks up and he's like, "Yes." And then he starts speaking in Spanish. And from that moment on, I think I just felt the security that I could do engineering at Western because like he was there and it was like he was proof that I could do it. He was proof that I would be supported. He was proof that the sky was the limit. And he actually pushed me to do engineering because I remember telling him like, oh, I don't know, like I feel like this. And he's like, do it. We need women in this field. We need Latinos in this field. We need you to represent us and you have the tools. Why can't you do it? Right. And, so I was very thankful to Rafael Obregon. Really changed my life too as one of my mentors in school.
This is like industrial engineering or what kind of?
So I wanted originally to go for mechanical engineering. But Western had this weird thing where like you only did 2 years at the Macomb campus and then you would have to switch to another campus. But because it was so hard for me to like integrate into the Macomb campus in general, when it was time to like transfer for my second part of my mechanical engineering degree, I spoke to my advisor. I'm like, I can't leave Western, right? I had already joined the Gammas. I had already made community and I didn't want to leave. And I knew that I needed that community to survive college. As a first gen, I needed that. And so she's like, well, what I could do for you is there's this engineering technology degree. And I'm like, no, because it's not like mechanical and it's not this. But she's like, you have that option. You either do engineering technology or you do, you have to leave to the mechanical. And so I'm like, fine, whatever. Shot in the dark. I was like, okay. And actually, I am very thankful for engineering technology because I feel like with the other engineering degrees, you learn a lot of concepts and you conceptualize a lot of the engineering practices. But with engineering tech, we were in the lab almost for all of my classes. From sophomore year to senior year, it was 2-hour labs mostly. And we were always doing things hands-on. We were, playing with PLCs, 3D printing, doing circuit boards.
I think I remember you posted like something with the water cutting. I don't know.
Oh, yes, the CNC and the plasma cutter.
But it's like a water, like it's with water, right?
Yeah. It has a name. I know. Yes. Yes, all of that.
I remember
stuff.
seeing that. I was like, wow, she's different.
Yeah. No, and a lot of people like imagine like my sorority sisters would be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, we're just making some machine parts. And they're like, do you like that? I'm like, yeah, I do.
That's fine.
But yeah, that's how the engineering and I think again, I've just always been hands-on. I think maybe you can relate to that. Like as artists, engineering is there's a threshold there. Like, and a lot of us don't think about that because like there's math and like science included, but it's also very creative.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I think like both my parents being engineers,
so sick.
It kind of like pushed me away from it because I thought that like I would end up like, not that they're living, like they're doing great for themselves, but to me, it's like I wanted to do it in a more artistic way.
Yeah.
But it does teach you like problem solving and
critical
like
thinking.
And you could apply it to like everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We need more for sure.
Yes. Become engineers.
So around that time, were you like stressed? Like, was it
Oh my
hard to like meet your grades and stuff?
No, like academically, no. Like, I studied, even though I partied a lot, I always knew, and my mom gave me really good advice. She's like, and I would give you guys this advice too. When you go to college, make sure to get in and out. Don't, it's okay to not know what you want to do. Sometimes we don't know. You're 18. How are you supposed to truly know that that's
Mm-hmm.
your career for the rest of your life? But what's important is for you to have a general plan and to not stall, right? Don't change your major too much. Don't extend the times that you have to be there, because when that happens, at least from what I've seen, you kind of get lost and it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of harder to actually finish. You lose motivation and interest. And so my mom's like, remember why you went to school. Remember that you're a daughter of immigrants. Remember that you're a first generation student. And remember that you have to make us proud. And so with that pressure,
Yeah.
right, I was like, okay. And academically, like I said, excelled. But the social part was hard. The
Mm-hmm.
social, ostracization and just being like alone. And so I had to study. And like I said, I partied because I also needed that balance. I took 18 credit hours pretty much my entire college career. And that was because I had a second major in Spanish. And so I also needed that Spanish major because engineering was so black and white sometimes. And sometimes it was boring. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
glorify it. Sometimes it was just numbers and calculus and so excessive that I needed to be stimulated academically, but through my culture. And I found Spanish, and I found another one of my mentors there, and she really motivated me. And so, yeah, it was like I said, what I think was hard was not knowing what questions to ask in regards
Mm-hmm.
to financial aid, not knowing um, like yeah, I guess like what would happen, not having anyone in my life that was a professional. And so when I graduated, I was like, what is this real world? How do I
Right.
navigate a degree like this? And how do I, pop off essentially? And so I think that's what I found hard, but never like school, because yeah, I'm pretty committed to getting it done.
It's fine.
Yeah.
What kind of job were you able to get a job
Yeah.
in engineering right after? Are you working there now?
Oh no,
Oh.
no. I think I'm more, and Ridosa has a lot to do with this. Like now I've kind of shifted lenses and like career paths, but I worked as an automation engineer or industrial engineer for 5 years right out of
Mm,
college. I was I was completely convinced and determined that I was gonna just climb the corporate ladder, and that even though in the back of my head I always wanted to be an artist, and it was always like a little voice like you should explore this, like I would shut it down because
mm,
yeah, engineering was lit. Like I worked a lot, they paid me a lot. I was one of the only women, so a lot of people think that although it was hard because yeah, some men are stuck in their ways. I also received a lot of respect and a lot of like I don't know, I guess like uplifting for
yeah.
me to like do it. And so I was very grateful for that. And so I was locked in for 5 years, um, doing installations, working with PLCs, working with the mechanics of conveyor systems. I worked at UPS, the one in Hodgkins, and it was actually really interesting because a lot of the people from Berwyn worked at UPS. So
Mm,
I remember I would see people that I went to high school with, and I've never been like, oh my god, like. So I would like shake up with them, dressed in my engineering suit, and
yeah.
they were working on the floor, and I remember people like my engineering colleagues looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm
Mm.
like, "Oh, they're my friends." Like, what do you mean? We went to the bar. No, but yeah, I did. I was successful in that regard, and like I said, I think engineering is amazing. It opened a lot of opportunities. It made me feel empowered. It made me
Mm,
feel whole. But I think for me specifically, which is why I've kind of switched lenses now and switched. I guess I'm in a transitional period. Was that you should follow your heart and do what your heart tells you to do,
right.
because I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to pursue that like creative career, and Bridosa is born, and I start to see that it's possible, and that it's possible to um, do what I wanted to do, which is again engage in art and creativity and in community.
Was that scary? Like leaving the
It
job?
was so scary. It was so terrifying. And I don't think I've actually spoke a lot about it because I feel like there's like guilt, right?
Mm,
Because so many people praised me and they're like, you're so amazing. And I am amazing.
I love it.
Thank you. But it's also just, it's attainable, right? Just do your work and you can also be an engineer.
Mm,
But I think what was terrifying is the guilt of like, oh my God, like I went through all of this, hardship. I literally paved the way. And now it turns out that I don't want to do that
Mhm.
and that I want to go live a little bit of a rough life of entrepreneurship and like, figuring it out from zero, because that's how we started. And yeah, but I think something with me too, it's like I've always done things terrified because it's true. Like I'm scared. If you know me personally, you know that I have a little bit of anxiety and
Mhm.
that, it's like when you do a lot, you're experiencing new experiences and sometimes you don't know what to do with those. And so yeah, but it was terrifying. But now I'm glad that I did it. Sometimes you have to take a risk on yourself.
Yeah, because they're kind of expecting you to stay there, and
Yeah.
you have to do what's right for you. That's fire. So then you made Ruidosa
Yeah.
with
Back to
with
the Ridoskis. Yeah.
and that's kind of like your main focus right now.
Yeah, that's my main focus. I do some freelancing because I also know how to draft,
Hmm.
and like my dad, he has this construction company, and like sometimes I'll help him. I'll do like side jobs here and there. Not too picky on like what to do, just if, to pay my bills. But my main focus is Ridosa. We didn't get to finish it, but Ridosa was born out of that book club. So
Mm.
the original 10 members were from book club. And I remember thinking how, like, again, how divinely the universe works because we all met there. And I didn't know that we were going to be Ridosa or whatever. My friend Pancho, he and I, so after we did the original, like, not Visiones, the art show that I was talking about with the women, a couple of years later in 2021, I meet Pancho. And Pancho was another moment of like clarity and alignment because this guy is, in a punk band. He's around my age and he also has this desire and ambition to create community and
Mm.
create events and explore his Latinidad. And so I remember we just became friends instantly, like besties. And we had been speaking about starting a collective or, something along those lines. And then he didn't want to come to book club though. And I was like, okay, then don't come to book club. But
Mm.
one day he's like, I'm gonna go to your book club. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, don't make noise though, because I know he doesn't like to read. I'm like, just, portate bien. He's like, okay, I will. He comes and he's just blown away. By the end
Mm.
of the meeting, he's like, you have something super special there. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, let's ask them to be in the collective. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay. I mean, the worst thing they can say is no. And so the next meeting, we have book club, everything. Pancho goes. And I open it up and I'm like, hey guys, this is Pancho. We do events. We want to propose this to you guys. Whoever wants to do it, you can do it. And there was 12 members that night, I think, and 10 of us said yes, like automatically. It's almost like we like locked in, put
Mm.
the green buzzer, and right after that meeting, and that meeting ended at 9:30. So at 9:30 p.m. on a Monday, we all went to Pancho's house a few blocks down, and we started working immediately. Like, what are we going to call the collective? What's our logo going to be? What's our
Fire.
first event?
Yeah,
Yeah, and so that's how it
that's
was
how I was
born.
born.
Hmm.
And now you guys have events like every month. I
Oh my
mean, you have
god.
your so you said Visiones,
Yes,
and this is
Visiones.
like the third annual. I
Yes,
think
yes,
I
the
saw the
third
flyer.
one. I am
How do you feel about it?
so. Oh my God, Pablo. Visiones is like my babies. I am very I don't know, I feel like I'm very nurturing
Yeah.
and like I exude like a lot of warmth and like I have such a deep connection with Visiones. Um for sure, La Virgen de Guadalupe, again, being a woman,
Hmm.
having that representation with like, how she looks and what she stands for. I know she's criticized a lot too because of like a lot of people say like, oh, she's a tool of colonization. But regardless of, and I'm not diminishing what happened in history, but I think like she's more so. I don't see her as like that colonization, story. I see her more of this like mother figure
Mm.
and this cultural icon that represents Latinidad and Mexicanidad. And so I love exploring that. I love exploring her. I love the artists. They always blow me away with their interpretations of La Virgen and motherhood.
Yeah, the roster is crazy. It sounds
Yeah,
like you guys have a lot of talented people.
I'm a
So
little.
everyone's doing a version of the
Mhm.
Virgen. That's
Yeah,
like
or
That's
like
what.
an interpretation.
Mm.
You know, sometimes I get things that are super like abstract and I'm like, how is this? And then I just stay alone with the piece and then I understand, right? And it's my
Mm.
interpretation. And that's what I love about art too. Like you don't have to, it's not right or wrong. And even with Visiones, because and I've had to work with myself, and this was definitely a growing opportunity. Like there's pieces that I may not agree with because you know I like La Virgen de Guadalupe. I support you know the motherhood aspect, but there's some pieces that make you think critically,
Right,
that
right.
allude to colonization, that allude to destruction. But all in all, I think that that's super important to still include because even though it may not be what I would do or how I
Mm.
would represent her, it's still an interpretation, and that's the goal for Visiones de Guadalupe.
Yeah. And if you were to filter those out, you would be doing the same thing. Like you would
Yeah,
be um like
like
canceling other people's
yes,
vision.
yeah.
Yes. That's December 7th.
Yes, December 7th at Pilsen Arts and Community House this
That's
year.
like 2 weeks.
It's like next weekend.
Oh shit. Yeah, so this will probably, I don't think this will come out in time, but like, what do you want to happen? Because I think a lot
Yeah.
of people don't. Like, especially as a curator, you
Hmm.
kind of, like, that's when you're the most stressed. I don't know if
Oh my
you're
God,
stressed. Like,
yeah, I'm so stressed, and I'm sober. So,
so like, what would you want to come out of it? Or like,
yeah.
what would make like a successful event for you?
Well, I don't want to sound cheesy or, you know, like that, but I think it's already super successful. I think
Mm.
like last year, so this is the third year. So the first year, I think we started with like 15 artists, and then last year it was like 20, and now it's over 50. And just that in general, right? And then you mentioned like that lineup is insane. It's artists that um just saw the call for artists
Mm.
and submitted, and it's artists that I look up to and like in a sense I think are like super cool, and I'm like, oh, they wouldn't want to do this, and then I saw their names and my jaw dropped. I was like, you saw my post?
Yeah,
Like I completely
that's interesting because
yeah.
I remember seeing the submission and I thought
Yeah,
about it, but like I'm like, oh, I'm not Mexican. I don't think
but
I could do it.
that's why I put Latinidad.
Yeah. So
It's okay
then,
next
do
year.
you have other people that are
Yeah.
Mexican in it?
Yes, I actually have a really cool artist. She's doing an Afro Latino take of
Mm.
La Virgen. I think she was the only one that I saw specifically that mentioned that.
Mm.
But a lot of the artists mention and are talking about like what I said about colonization and how La Virgen was used in that sense. And also, a lot of them are doing her as Tonantzin. And that's
Mm.
why I put that as my brand's name because La Virgen has always guided me. She's always protected me. Um, I like men, but in general, I like your species. But I think I've always just been closer to like motherhood and
Yeah.
like women and femininity. And so when it was time to find my name for that brand, I was like, okay, La Virgen, because automatically she was, you know, empowered. She protected me. And so, yeah, that's how that came about. Um,
What is that? Tonantzin is
oh
something to do with
yes,
their name. What is
sorry.
that? What is Tonantzin?
Yeah, so Tonantzin, and again, we can argue in the comments about this, but Tonantzin is the Aztec mother, in like as an Aztec deity. So
Mm.
she was the one that you know. Well, there's a whole history of mythology, but I don't think it's mythology. That's facts. But yeah, so Tonantzin is La Virgen, are the mother of Huitzilopochtli and Quetzalcoatl and a bunch of these Aztec deities.
Mm.
And so, but then, okay, the criticism comes where, you know, the Catholic Church comes, the colonizers come, and they want to get the indigenous people to convert. And so they grab Tonantzin and they kind of like mix her with the Virgin Mary. And
Mm.
so a lot of people, you know, comment and say like, well, that was just another tool to get our indigenous people to forget about their roots. And I do agree with that. I do agree with, you know, that, yeah, colonization deleted a bunch of our history and you know a lot of like our culture that was there, but again moving forward and in the cultural sense of like modern day, you know, Tonantzin, La Virgen de Guadalupe, you know, she's important, she's an important figure to us, and
Yeah,
so she leads us and I love her.
that's fair. My family is predominantly Catholic.
Yes.
Obviously, like Colombia, I think is like, I don't know,
Catholic.
Catholic,
Yeah.
right? And like we do like novenas every
Yes.
winter. We yeah, Aurora's family is very Catholic too.
Yes.
I've always had a hard time agreeing with like Catholic
Yes.
uh
Same.
Catholicism.
Religion. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like my older son Lucas,
Yes.
he's like in CCD,
Okay.
like he's
Yeah.
doing like communion and stuff, and it's hard for me not to like contradict
Yes,
or
yes,
like
I'm already
it's like I
knowing.
do want him to have faith, you know, and I
Mhm.
want him to believe in a higher power, but there's certain things that I don't agree with too. So it's
Yeah.
tough.
And
Like,
I completely
yeah.
agree. Like, I always say, because people always ask me, like, oh, Steph, like, you talk about La Virgen a lot and a lot of santos. And the thing with me is that I'm a very spiritual person.
Hmm.
I don't believe in religion. I will say that. I don't like it. I don't judge it because I know that it works for people and I respect people. I respect people's faith because at the end of the day, if something works for you, it works for you.
Right.
Who am I to be like, no, that doesn't work. That's wrong. Absolutely not. Do what's best for you. But for me, spirituality means a more encompassing connection with you as a person and a higher power, right? It's just that direct connection. And it's not like, you need to do the novena, you are sinning. Like it doesn't add that pressure, at least in my view of spirituality. And so I pick and choose stuff that
Yeah.
I like from the Catholic Church. I pick and choose stuff that I like from the indigenous practice of our ancestors.
Mm.
I have done a couple temazcales in Mexico where I have truly felt cleansed and backed up and almost like a universal hug because of the rituals that, our ancestors left us and all of that information that's really just kind of hidden or not brought to light. I truly believe that connection is a form of higher power and divinity. Connecting with another human at a very vulnerable state for me is spirituality because usually society doesn't let you take the mask off of like who you truly are, but through book club, literally the most random place, book
Hmm.
club, I've seen that connection. I've seen a sense of spirituality while we're having dialogue about, books or themes or even experiences that the members have had that the books bring up, right? So yeah, that's my outlook on that.
Yeah. What do you like? What do you think you were looking for in like other people that you didn't have in the people around you? Like growing up, you didn't have
Mhm.
friends or
You-
like
no.
like growing up or
How did you
like
know?
you
Was it
didn't have
easy
a
to tell?
friend like a friend group or
Yeah,
like are you
actually, that's insane that you knew that.
no I'm just wondering because you were looking for people, right?
Yes.
So like
Yeah, so I think growing up, like, yeah, because I was also really quiet. I was
mm,
also I don't know if Aurora remembers this. I think with her I was a yapper because she made me feel comfortable.
okay.
But in general, I was a quiet girl. I was very to myself. I was very nerdy, so nerdy kids, we kind of eat in the library. Don't really like to interact with people.
Hmm.
And so in that community that I found. And I also always felt like I didn't belong. And I don't know if that was because of the Chicanismo or the way that I felt in regards to like my feelings and the stuff that I had gone through that I thought like nobody else has gone through this. But yeah, I was very isolated. I was very like, oh, it's just me, like nobody else has gone through this.
Right.
And then, I'm telling you, I got sober and I started to have these real conversations. I started to really think about if it was true, right? If something was wrong with me or if I was just not in alignment with the
Hmm.
people that I wanted to find. And so again, I always say like I went back to my roots and my roots are education and community. And so I said, okay, well, let's see what happens. But Pablo, I didn't know. I didn't know that I was gonna have friends. Like I
Mm.
love that you said that because I had never been in a group chat. I had never like experienced support,
Right,
like
right.
stuff like that until literally 2 years ago when Ruidosa started. Like I had never felt valuable like that in a sense. Like I know I'm valuable, but I had never been perceived, I guess. And
Mm.
so especially through what I love, which is art. And so it was very, I don't know, like transformative. It changed my life and in turn it motivated me, right? It completely started this fire where I have a community that now motivates me, right? I have a community that I can go to and I can present ideas or if I'm, not feeling well, I can also voice that. And again, I truly think it was just the universe and like you put out a call for books and reading, of course nerds are going to come and and non-nerdy people too,
Right.
a lot of people look at me, they're like they never really guess that I'm like nerdy or
Hmm.
this deep, which is fine, they're just not my people. But like putting out that call I think is like, okay, well that's the alignment, right? You like to read, you like community, you like all of that stuff. And so they came and yeah, that's what I think I was lacking, right? Like that
Mm.
support and like, yeah, friendship.
So Pancho comes up to you. He's like,
Oh my god.
let's turn these people who are in our book club into our partners.
Yeah.
So everybody in the book club is part of Duosa?
Yeah. Well, like now it's transformed, right? Now it's grown. Now we have about, it depends because like there's seasons of book club. And I love that book club is one of the members said this because we had a gratitude
Mhm.
Friendsgiving talk, and he was like, hey, or when it was his time to talk, he's like, I like that book club allows you to walk in and out of it, but you don't feel like you've been disconnected when you do have to leave. And I
Mm.
was like, I love that perspective because yeah, I have to show up good day, bad day because I'm the founder, the director. I have the key, and I also like it. I'm not gonna lie, I love being there even on my bad days. But some members, they'll go for a book, then they'll like leave, then they'll come back and stuff like that. But like, so all of that happens. But in regards to, the people that are there, they were just all like super, I forgot the question.
If they were down, I mean,
Oh,
because
yes.
when I'm trying to start a new company, when I'm trying
Mhm.
to, when I went to think about how I'm gonna get my first
Mhm.
store, I'm going to the people that like I know are gonna be there
Yeah.
for me no matter what, or like that I trust, you know.
Yes.
So it's hard for me to trust just
Like
like
almost
random
strangers.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I remember. Sorry, because sometimes I.
No, I'm the same
Um,
way.
no. So what happened with that was that we read the book. So Pancho comes in around, I think maybe the fourth or fifth month of book club. So I had already known them. So I knew that Adrian was a videographer. I knew that
Hmm.
Yeshi was a singer from La Rosa Nor, and that she was like an amazing curator as well. I knew that my sister was there and she was down to like do the logistics and down to help, down to photograph. She's an amazing photographer. So like I kind of, because I'm also very observant, and so I kind of like started to analyze all of these like qualities that they had. And again, me, like one of my huge passions is organizing and connecting
Hmm.
people. I love connecting the right people together. I love just serving as that like, resource. And so I started to do that analysis. And then Pancho, comes in, and because he's like, where are we going to get the people from the collective? And I'm like, at book club, we were having that conversation. And so when he went that first time, he saw what I was talking about. And not everyone jumped at it, even though they loved it and they did agree to be in it because it was so unknown. And so I would say for the most part at the beginning, it was me and Pancho kind of convincing everyone
Mm.
that there was trust, that there was love, that we were going to make it, that we were going to be successful. Because I also think this is super important when you're working in partnership. You need the visionaries, right? It's really important to have the people that can execute, but you also need the drivers of the vision. And sometimes, like me, I love creating and being a visionary. I'm not that great at logistics. I don't really like it. Like seeing like how we're gonna position this and stuff like that. Not my forte, but I'll do it when I have to do it. But I like, that like driving the vision. I like inspiring. I like putting us into perspective. And so we kind of vetted, all of them. I kind of put my name on the line, and there was some members that had doubts, and they're like, I don't know if I want to do this. And
Hmm.
I had a lot of conversations where I was like, it's gonna work. Just
Yeah.
wait to see the first event. And then we had our first event, and I remember the debriefing, and everybody was shocked. And me and Pancho were like, me, Pancho, and Jess, because she's also part of like the original, um, like team back then. Um, we were like, yeah, we knew this would happen because, and it was even better than what we had projected because like all of us, like it was 10 of us. And so all of us brought our different crowds, all of us brought, our friends, our family. So they all merged together.
Hmm.
And so after that, I saw the team morale just like skyrocket and like, just know that we could do it. Know that like anything was truly possible if we, you know, just constantly like stayed in alignment and just worked on things. And I think
Hmm.
Ruidosa is so, one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's not just one thing. It's so many different things, right? It's like we do art, we do education through the book club, and we do music, right? And that music part is so important because truly what it is, it's highlighting Latinos, right? And
Yeah.
that's again in alignment with the book club because as a Chicana, as a daughter of immigrants, as a first generation student, that's something that I saw lacking. Our representation of Latinidad, our representation of everything that we have done, all of the amazing artists that don't get to be highlighted, that don't get to be seen. Why? Because they don't have an art degree. Why? Because they literally, don't have that platform. Well, Brudosa is here to give you that platform.
Mm.
Yeah.
I do want to say like when so with Visiones,
Yeah.
the first year, you said you started off with like 20 vendors and then you went to
Yeah.
30. Now you're at 50.
Hmm.
Like, do you plan on making it? Like, do you want 100 next year? Do you want like 200
I want
in the
1,000.
following? Really?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I do.
Because when I hear, or me personally, like as an artist, if I do an event, I want the least amount of vendors because
Really? Yeah, it's a
I
lot of
just think
work.
you get no, like not me participating in the event because it's less eyes on my stuff.
Yeah.
So I just wonder like
Oh, I love that
what
perspective.
what are you doing to make sure that every vendor
Mhm.
gets
Like visibility.
right?
Yeah, no, that's super important. You know, I would say in regards to just because like the theme of it is such it's so hyped in general. So
Mm-hmm.
I think like not that it was easy, but that we all connect through, you know, like her cultural, you know, like her cultural concept. But I think it's just that I think it's like the people that, you know, have signed up, they have their audiences and I don't know, like they are very confident and I'm also confident and like every vendor or like every artist that I have worked with, so I do pay attention to that. Sometimes when I have vendors, I'm like, oh my God, did they sell? Like, I hope that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the fee at least was covered. If there is a fee, we generally don't have fees. But yeah, like it's just like it, it relies also on like their self promotion,
Right.
but also like, you know, on knowing that the community is going to respond well. And that's what I've seen. Like the community is present and also like everybody can eat, right? And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that through the feedback that I've gotten from the artists, like because I'm very intentional in asking like, hey, did it go well? Hey, what do you think? Like, how could we improve?
Yeah.
And as of now, I've heard that, you know, they're happy with the visibility that
I'm
they
sure.
get.
Yeah.
And so
It's just like I guess from my
yeah.
perspective, you know, like I you started out this like podcast
Mhm.
saying like you wanted to be more intentional with like your events and like
Yeah.
I think sometimes less is more, but
Yes.
I don't know what you're envisioning because like I guess it could turn into like a convention
Yeah.
eventually. And is
Yeah.
that what you like? What are your goals
Yeah.
for Videosa? Like, is that too big of a question?
No, no, no. For Ruidosa, oh my God, for Ruidosa, the sky's the limit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we want, well, first and foremost, we want to stay true to the community. I think that we, mostly me, have instilled that into the group where
Yeah.
like, I'm like, guys, without the community support, we're nothing. Don't ever let anything get to our heads in regards to like, we're the shit. Cause I see that a lot, right? I see when artists start out and it's fine, like talk your shit, but also walk the walk, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, and remember where you came from. Cause like, that's something that's like super drilled in me. Like, and so I definitely like the sky's the limit, but as long as we stay true to the community values, which is like again representing Latinos, giving back to the community, whether that be in events, money, education, dialogue, um, but more so with the events of Ridosa, yeah, like conventions, fests, like
Mm-hmm.
anything truly is possible like that because one, we can do it. We have
Yes.
the originality, we have the connections, we have the drive and two like we have the support now. We're talking about making it more formal, starting to like see really where we want to go, right? We're having a retreat in early early next year, and those are the two topics, like how do we literally formalize and standardize all of our financial and like business practices, and then how do we like surpass the goals that we had last year. And so now because we've spent 2 years fostering community, that's already checkmarked.
Mm-hmm.
And like we have that unlocked. So now it's like the next step. And that's been hard. That's been hard to plant the seeds, but wait, not like try to figure everything out at once. Yeah. And that's something that I'm very grateful to my team for because, for me, I wanted to do everything like, let's get this, and this. But a couple members are, we'll just slow it down. We'll see. We have to see how it goes. We have to, all of that. And so it's just awesome to like work in that team in that environment and know that like even if like we don't automatically agree, we're going to listen to each other and we're gonna figure it out. And so yeah, but for Visiones next year, oh my God, next year I want an even bigger gallery.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign up for that.
Yeah.
That sounds fire.
I'll be waiting probably.
What about aside from Videosa, what about you? Like how do you feel? How are you?
Yeah,
What
no.
like what are you working on?
Yeah.
or are you still painting?
Yeah, I'm still painting. I want to get back into screen printing. My roots are in screen printing, printmaking, acrylic painting.
Screen printing shirts or
Hmm.
prints or
Yeah,
with like
everything.
the six
Yeah.
or how many heads or
Oh no, just one. Because I'm very DIY, but
mm,
I would love to like get into the six. I would like to have like the machinery for it. I want to, Donancing, like I said, it was like more so of my brand, and that's why me and Jessica are able to share it. But I want to get back to those roots of like my artistic endeavors. But I will say it's super hard. You're not the first person to ask me like,
mhm.
"Where's your art though?" Or "Where is yours?" So like, what project are you like Stephanie working on? But I would say it's like super hard when you're so invested in, for me it's Ridosa and book club, and trying to balance, like this movement that's
Yeah.
happening, because that's truly how I see Ridosa, and then trying to balance your artistic endeavors. But for this upcoming year, I also want to make that one of my personal goals. I want to work on my clothing brand again. I want to, work on my paintings. I have like 4 unfinished paintings.
Mhm.
And the day that for El Barrio that I saw you painting it here, I loved it because I'm like, oh, we are all the same. Like I love that because sometimes I'm like, am I the only one that does this?
No, yeah. I have
Uh,
too many that I started.
yeah,
Probably, it's hard.
it's
It's
so
like
hard.
yeah. As long as you consider those your
Yeah.
babies too, like
Oh, of
Rudosa and
course.
all that. It's because I don't know. I've felt like I've given myself to other
Yeah.
projects with friends or like, and then nothing comes from it, and it's
Yeah.
because I guess I didn't claim it as much as I could have, or like
Right.
I felt like I was doing most of the work, and
I feel
it wouldn't feel
you.
like that if I considered it mine. I guess.
Yeah. And that's super like interesting, and like it does happen in collectives,
Right.
it's it's difficult. It's difficult to kind of like the idea of ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
And splitting it and being fair and all of that. And I'll be transparent. Sometimes some of us lead more, sometimes others, help us execute. But I would say that like our focus is trying to like shift that, right? Shift that like, I'll do a cumbia event because I love cumbia and like I know how to curate it. But if, one of the team members wants to do it, we have that knowledge, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is the people that I would do. This is how I would like go about asking the questions. And we have that information readily available for if they want to do it. It's now up to the individual to, like you said, claim it as theirs. And I think that's something that Ruidosa kind of, I don't want to say struggles with, but definitely there's that conversation of
Mm-hmm.
like, well, like who owns it or like who is like truly in charge. But I will say like we've done a great job in to like kind of like, splitting it, right? Splitting that workload, splitting
Yeah.
the leadership. Um, and I'm okay. I'm okay with like how everything is turning out. And I am truly excited.
Some more questions, and
Okay.
then I'll let you.
I'm a Gemini, and
What's your
uh,
favorite color?
my favorite color would be like pink or black. And then, wait, I'm a Gemini sun, a Leo rising, and a Scorpio moon, and a Gemini Venus.
Mm.
He's like, I
What's
don't
your
know.
clothing brand? You have a name for it, or is it
Um,
still under Donut?
yeah, I would be under
Oh,
Tonantzin.
okay. Um,
No, no, wait, there's people that actually know how to read it.
um, if somebody was so there's a lot of people that do need or feel the need to want a collective
Yeah,
or want community. I feel like I'm lucky and I'm blessed
yeah.
to like have the people that are around me. I don't know. We kind of just all found ourselves, but like in high school, and we kind of all stuck together.
Oh,
So when I see people that like want to help or want to like join what I'm doing, I'm kind of like I have my guard up just because like
yes.
I don't know you, but like Bernie is one of these people. Like I just
Bernie's
like
awesome though.
yeah. Some people are just very genuine and very helpful, but it takes me like, a little time to like warm up to them. But like,
Yeah.
what's some advice that you could give to them if they're looking for community?
Yeah, I would say, be open. Um, go First, I always say that you have to have the conversation with yourself. You
Mm,
have to see who you are at your core. You have to see what matters to you. You have to see your interests, where you want to go in your life. And once you have that unlocked, like once you have a general sense of yourself, of your being, then you can go out and seek out your community. Because again, while I was a party girl, while I was, all of these things that were not essentially who I was at my core, it took me out of alignment. So I couldn't find my community. I couldn't find my friends, my collective, because I wasn't sitting at the right table. I wasn't with the right people because the actions that I was doing did not align with what I wanted to be. And so I would say it's super important to be self-aware and to have those conversations with yourself. Because community is, sometimes we think about it as like this far thing, but community, like you're part of community. So like if you are off or you're not in alignment, then you're not going to think that that community is for you. And so that's why I always say it's so important to stay true to yourself, to fight for what you want, to fight for your dreams, and to not betray yourself. I feel like sometimes we betray ourselves in the sense of like you let your dreams go or you take actions that maybe weren't the best, right? But once you have those conversations, and they're reoccurring conversations, I've had to literally either journal them out or talk literally through my head and through my thoughts. But it's a constant evaluation of like who you are, what you want to be, and who you again are at your core, and then aligning that to like the spaces, right, in community. So like for me, for example, it's always like art, it's always music and alternative music because I am a little emo rocker girl at heart. And yeah, community and education because I'm a nerd and I will always be a nerd.
I like how you also like Meg the Stallion.
Oh my god, I love Meg. Meg literally helped me. She's such a baddie, and I love her because she's tall.
Yeah.
And I'm really tall. I'm 5'9", and so I don't see a lot of tall baddies. And we're out there. We exist. And she empowered me. She really, because like growing up, I was always the tallest, and I never was like self-conscious about it because my mom again.
The title of this is gonna be Stephanie the Stallion.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so down. A lot of my friends have me as Stephanie the Stallion, Steph the Stallion. But yeah, seeing her and finding her music, even though I am a rockera and all of that stuff, I loved it. And I love music in general. Like I love that creative process. Like I said, my dad is this punk and like I grew up with his studio and always musicians, always music. And so, yeah, I like it. And I love her. She's a baddie.
She's super into anime too.
She is. She's so like, and that's why like she's weird, and that's what I like. Like I like people that don't give a fuck. I'm sorry about like how they're perceived and like, and it's hard to get to that point. But I just love the people that are like simmer in their authenticity. It makes me almost like live through them.
Yeah, it's like confidence. And
it rubs off.
Yeah, you definitely. I feel like your confidence is making me feel better.
How is it going with the store?
Pretty good. Oh, we have a paint and sip on December 14th with Ileana. Have you had a chance to meet her yet? I feel like you guys would get along.
What did she do? Like, did she have a recent art exhibition? Because I feel like I've definitely heard her name.
Co-Create is her company. It's kind of similar to where like that's her baby and the Rios is yours baby.
Right.
But she does a lot of events through Co-Create. She did Sunny's. It's called Sunny's. I was part of it. I showed something.
Oh, I think was it the yellow flyer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I definitely let me remembering through flyers.
She did a paint and sip last week on Sunday, and I went because I've never been to a paint and sip, but I'm hosting one with her.
That's so cool.
Where we're gonna be teaching a class. So I definitely want to shout that out if people want to do paint and sip.
Definitely.
It's called Brush Hour.
Okay.
And we're gonna be playing Rush Hour.
Ooh.
And just kind of have like good quality materials and trying to make it a little more of an experience.
Will you have non-alcoholic drinks for us?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even think we'll have alcohol. Maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, you should come.
I think it'll be fun.
And then New Year's we're gonna have a party.
Oh.
So we have calendars that I do yearly where I kind of.
Oh yeah, I have seen them.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a show for that hopefully, and my partners Matt and Alex will probably be displaying some work too.
Oh, that's so cool.
But the store's been cool. I think just getting people off the street is the hardest thing. Like right now, I just got a text that our window vinyl is ready.
Oh,
so
hell yeah.
Just getting people to walk in is harder. But yeah, that's
awesome, Pablo.
It's been going.
Yeah, I just want to commend you. Like I said, you were one of the first people that I saw doing it, and it was so inspiring. It was so inspiring to see like you and see like your authenticity and see you believe in yourself. And I think you were literally one of the first people that I saw, just fucking do it. Like literally no excuses, nothing. And we didn't know each other. I don't think we've ever talked until maybe like 2 years ago. And so it's just been, I've been a fan for a long time. Like I said, seeing you get with Aurora, seeing Lucas,
That's
your
so
baby.
crazy.
Yeah, like it's been awesome. And, you know, I'm definitely rooting for you. You are definitely in alignment in like what I'm speaking about through, you know, this whole podcast. It's awesome. You know what you do, and I always wish you the best. I definitely admire your work and your talent and also your drive.
Do you feel like you're very well spoken? So like, is that because of the book club, or have you always been like able to hold a conversation like this?
No, I'm a Gemini, so I just know how to speak.
Okay.
No, also because
They say like reading helps,
yeah.
but I'm not much of a reader.
Well, sometimes you know I have issues speaking. My sister will be like, "That's not how you say that," or will like fuck up words. But I think that's because like soy Latin or soy Chicana, so I learned Spanish and English at the same time. But I think in regards to being well spoken, I enjoy conversation and I enjoy you know, connecting. And so I think that's what it is. And also, my mentors have done a number on me where like I listen to their lectures and like I don't imitate them because like I need to be original, but I definitely do take inspiration. I definitely do see how they hold their composure, and yeah, they're inspiring to me. So thank you for the well-spoken compliment. Sometimes I'm like, did you guys understand me? Because they'll be silent. I'd be like, oh my god.
No, it's really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have anything that you want to shout out? Maybe not this event, but the next one. Do you have anything coming up after
No,
mid-December?
No, mid-December. I just want to say thank you, seriously, to everyone with it being around Thanksgiving and the holidays. I am so incredibly honored and grateful to everyone that has supported me. And my last shout out would go to Pilsen Arts and Community House, Teresa, Pablo, Elena. I love them so much.
There's a Pablo there too.
There's a Pablo there too. He's amazing. They have a book. They're a poet. Teresa's a painter and also an amazing curator and community member. Their daughter Elena, a baddie, an artist, like so sweet, a fashion icon. And then obviously to Ruidosa. I love Ruidosa. Thank you guys for all of that support. Thank you for seeing us.
I love your promo videos.
Do you?
Guys, show every flyer and then go into depth on.
Yeah,
that's fire.
Sometimes I'm like, do people see these? But I always get that feedback, and I'm like, okay, thank God that you know our videographer Adrian at Overdrive Studios does a great job.
A lot of shout outs.
Yeah, well, you know, it takes a village.
Where can people find you?
They can find us at ruidosa.artcollective on Instagram. We're working on a website, so stay tuned. Personally, you could also find the book club at amoxley_club. And my personal funny account at Stephanie. We'll just link it in the thing.
But yeah, I'll throw it up here. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pablo.
This was awesome.
I had a great time.
It feels good to podcast again. It's been a while, but we got a team now. We're gonna go crazy.
Team.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa.